everyone, and welcome to the Main Event Marks podcast. I'm your co-host, former radio newsman, lifelong wrestling fan, collector at heart, and I've got 6 cats. I need this podcast. I am Troy, and your other co-host with the most, he is Coffee Addict, the man who loves to scratch that figure itch, and he's the WWE Walking Wrestling Encyclopedia. He is the Samu to my Fatu. He is Greg. What's up, man?
What up?
You didn't object to the reference this week to Samu?
No, they're Bay Area guys, so I gotta, I gotta be a homer.
Yeah, but I get the good one. I get the one that went on to be Rikishi.
Define good.
Hey, did you not like Rikishi?
I didn't like the head shrinkers.
Ah, okay. Well, the head shrinkers, whatever. But wait, weren't the head shrinkers the Samoan SWAT team? Wasn't it the same ones?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure.
They just changed the name. I never got that name, by the way, Samoan SWAT team.
I didn't either. I didn't know, like, Samoan people were, like, big in SWAT unless they just made it up.
Yeah, it sounds good. The SST.
No, it does. It just...
Yeah.
Where is it from?
Right. When I think Samoan SWAT team, I think Roman Reigns.
Right? Literally. He's got that vest on, yeah.
Right, yeah. He's got all that going on. So today, man, we're diving into NWA Clash of the Champions 6. This one, I don't know. It was an okay show. But I felt like it was like those, you and I talked about this with classic WWF cards in the past, like various WrestleManias from the past, where it was like, this was a one match show.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, it's just.
I can be honest, I didn't really enjoy it that much either.
Yeah, it was fine. I loved the main event. The rest of the show was okay. And we'll kind of get into all that here as we go on. I did want to mention before we get going, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. It's at @mainevent_marks. And we just got a Facebook, which I was saying I didn't really care to do, but we got one anyway. So check us out on Facebook. It's facebook.com/maineventmarkspod. And then you can always email us if you want to slip into our DMs. It's maineventmarkspod@gmail.com. Our YouTube, man, you and I have been posting some YouTube exclusive content on figures, figure collecting, games, all that good stuff. I'm excited about where that could go, man. I don't know about you.
Oh, I am too. I'm a huge fig collector and a huge gamer, so.
Yeah, we try to plug that as much as possible on this show. But yeah, so we're relegating that mostly to the YouTube channel. So go check that out. Just search for Main Event Marks Pod, and the more you subscribe, if we get to 100 subscribers, we can get our own URL, and that's our goal right here, is getting our own custom URL, so you don't have to always search for it.
Yeah, please do it, because I don't feel like creating 100 accounts and subscribing. Not that I would do that. That's
yeah. Who would do that? That just sounds lame. No, I'm kidding. But
I know, right? I mean, there's 2 of us. That's only 50 apiece. God,
yeah.
Idiot.
Right, yeah. And I've already got like 4 accounts on YouTube. So, but yeah, man, diving into the news and notes of the time. We are in the year 1989. Here's the big ones starting off. Some of these are like, they're leading into the show here, and some of them are like right out of the show. So I tried to stick around like a 2-week radius, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The big story, the lead story this week in the Wrestling Observer is that Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express have given their notice to the NWA, and they'll be leaving immediately. Basically, Jim Herd was pissed off that Eaton and Lane were making $225,000 a year each, and he moved to cut costs by negotiating new contracts with them. The new deal is said to be between $100,000 and $125,000 each, and their new role will be putting over the Samoan SWAT team on spot shows. Their last official match with the company will be April 9th against the SST.
And they would literally go nowhere.
Yeah, they kind of faded off into obscurity. Well, the Midnight Express did. Bobby Eaton obviously came back and, whatever. I don't think the Midnights ever came back, did they?
Not to my knowledge, no.
No, Stan Lane kind of went off and did his own thing. Jim Cornette.
I think Stan Lane goes to WWE eventually as an announcer.
Oh, was he an announcer in WWE?
Yeah.
Oh,
and Bobby
I don't remember
does kind of linger there because he does that whole Earl of Eaton thing with William Regal, or Steve Regal at the time. It's just,
and that's 6
like
years in the
later.
future. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know what he's doing between them, but I do know he eventually does go back to what would be WCW. So.
Yeah. Well, I remember Jim Cornette talking about this time specifically. He said the only reason they stuck around, because he said him and Stan were ready to just walk the hell out at any time, and the only reason they didn't was because Bobby had kids. He needed that job, so he said they stuck around literally just for Bobby Eaton. And it finally got to the point where when Herd cut their money so much, they were like, "You've cut it by more than 50%. We're tearing it up on every show. We're constantly putting everybody over. What the hell?" And they finally just said, "Forget it. Screw you, Herd," and they all left. But I guess Bobby.
Pizza Hut probably wasn't doing too well at the time, so.
Yeah. Oh, and we see Jim Herd on this show, by the way. I'll have to mention, but
thankfully, because.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you see that dead raccoon sitting on top of his head? Oh, wait, that was his hair. I'm sorry. He's alive, so I can still crap on him, which shocks me that some of the people on this show that are no longer with us, and he's still kicking. Like, and I'm not saying that in like a he should be dead thing, but it's like he's so much older than some of the guys on the show that are no longer alive.
Well, some people just take better care of themselves.
Yeah. Well, according to Jim Ross, Jim Herd just sat around drinking a butt ton of gin. So maybe that's the secret to long life. Just drink a lot of gin and be a miserable person. Come up with a dead dog.
Run Domino's or Pizza Hut, whatever the hell he ran.
Yeah.
What stress can there be in the pizza business, right? Not enough pepperoni. The sauce isn't zesty enough. The crust isn't rising. What is your stress in pizza?
Ask Papa John, man. I don't know. Too soon for that one? I don't know.
I ain't touching it.
Well, speaking of people who are no longer with us, the Junkyard Dog missed a bunch of shows and was fired around this time.
Is that why he's on? Is that why his match isn't on the network?
It is on the network on this show.
Oh, is that one on there?
Yeah.
I think I have no. I watched it a couple days ago, but I forget. There are matches edited off. That's why I'm saying.
Yes.
We'll get to. I thought that was one.
Yeah.
I must have saw it. Oh yeah, I do have notes. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about the ones that are edited off as well. I mean, obviously we didn't see them. I can't find them anywhere online. They were, literal dark matches.
I looked everywhere, and clearly someone doesn't want these matches seen.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I do know the Eddie Gilbert match. He bled like a stuck pig. I mean, that could explain that, but there's a couple other ones I don't get. But
and Eddie Gilbert is on the show in some capacity. So we'll see. Barry Windham, we talked about him after Chi-Town Rumble. He had that spot in the Luger match where he punched the post, and I guess that was to set him up because he legitimately needed hand surgery. Well, when Barry Windham went in for his hand surgery, which put him out for 9 weeks, but in fact he went to the WWF and when he was fully recovered. So this was the last of Barry Windham, or Chi-Town Rumble was the last of Barry Windham we'd see in NWA WCW for a long time.
I'm struggling to remember his early run. I mean, I was only like 6, so.
Yeah, I know. That's what you and I remember the USA Express. I mean, not being there. I mean, that was before, we were really, that was before I was born and before you started watching wrestling. And I remember Wyndham's Blackjack run and his run as the Stalker, but when was he was a Stalker in 94, 95?
96, he was at the Survivor Series, so.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't, 89, I'd really have to go back and look, because I don't remember that at all. Here you go, man. Haku was arrested again for a bar fight. Allegedly he got drunk and demanded that a woman bow down in servitude to him. And when her boyfriend objected, he gave the guy and his buddy a double noggin knocker.
That sounds made up.
I know. This just sounds like the weirdest frickin' story of all time, but somehow I can envision Haku doing this. I don't know. I don't do overseas news or news from Mexico or whatever, but this one I did have to throw in there just because I thought it was funny. In New Japan, Sid Vicious continues to job in opening six-man matches. Later on in the tour, Ricky Choshu completely squashed him with a lariat, and Uncle Dave completely buries Sid Vicious and the matches, saying that he looked even worse than people had described.
Wow.
Yeah, that's, I don't know. And then Sid Vicious would go on to be a four horseman and multi-time world champion and all that good stuff. Kevin Von
Not
Erich.
even like a year later. Oh, well, maybe a year later, yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a horseman.
Right. Kevin Von Erich was, if not fired, at least put on suspension for no showing yet another card in Dallas. I believe they meant Kerry Von Erich. I don't think Kevin no-showed. But Kerry was supposed to wrestle the Beast on a TV show, but the taping started at 9 a.m. and Kerry showed up at about noon, by which point they had already stuck Chris Adams into the match. So Kerry ran into the ring in street clothes to beat up the Beast, claiming that Iceman Parsons had slashed his tires. Afterwards, Jerry Jarrett had told him that he'd end up on the street with Kevin if he did it again. Well, I guess it was Kevin. I guess Kevin did get fired, so he was threatening to fire Kerry as well. In retaliation, Parsons got to cut a promo on TV against Kerry, saying that he was going to rip off Kerry's leg and give it to his daughter to use as a baseball bat. What the crap was going on in Dallas, dude?
That all sounds made up.
Most of this stuff does.
The leg part, man.
Oh, I know, right? That just, what?
That sounds like a horrible, story. Not like...
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Bro, we're going to use his leg as a bat, bro.
Bro, he's going to beat him with his leg, and he's gone forever, bro. New Line Cinema was the company
Gone
to
forever
pick up...
count one so far.
Good Lord. New Line Cinema was the company to pick up distribution rights to No Holds Barred at the bargain price of $0, since all of the other distributors walked out on the screening and wouldn't pick it up. I didn't think it was that bad. Good Lord.
I'm still pushing for us to do a review on that on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, it's coming. I just want to be able to have a soundboard with stuff on it, like the one guy going, Dookie, and he's like, Dookie.
Oh, good Lord.
That's my favorite part of the whole movie.
Got some horrible one-liners in there too, man.
Oh, I know, like that one where he's riding the motorcycle and he's like, you, me, and the tree, or something like that. And then he nails the brakes on the motorcycle and the guy goes flying into the tree. Gosh, good stuff.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
I don't like that we said that in stereo.
Toronto, which already has a $200,000 advance for a closed circuit showing of WrestleMania 5 at Maple Leaf Gardens, is probably getting WrestleMania 6 at the new Sky Dome that is currently being finished. Spoiler, it does go there.
I was just there last year.
Yeah, you lucky piece of crap. Right, well, I mean, you did have to go to Canada, so I don't know how lucky you were, but whatever.
Hey, they were really nice.
Yeah, sorry. By the way, leading up to WrestleMania 5, around the house show circuit, they've been announcing that Run DMC will be the musical guest at WrestleMania 5, and the crowds have been booing them out of the building. Wow.
No, they were an acquired taste.
Yeah. Well, do you remember... I can't remember which SummerSlam it was that they had CeeLo Green perform, and you could have heard a pin drop when he performed.
Wasn't one of your old Xbox Live buddies on the big screen, like his tout video or something?
Yeah, when they used Tout, he was not a buddy. I absolutely hated this guy.
Well,
but I knew who he was.
Yeah, well, whatever. Maybe I worded it wrong, but yeah.
Yes.
Someone you were aware of. And
hey, let me say this right. Yes, let me be clear. If you've used Tout, screw you. Just putting that out there. Here's the last.
Where is it now? I think it's folded.
Might have. I don't know. That went away really quickly. You notice that? WWE just pumped the crap out of it, and then nothing.
Don't worry, we still got TikTok.
No. Yay. Although WrestleMania 5 was a huge financial success, Uncle Dave was completely bored by the 3.5 hour show, although he called the work better than average by WWF standards in most cases. He said overall, thumbs down. It was a one-match show, but there was literally nothing else to justify the runtime.
What was the match she was talking about? The main event?
Yeah.
Because Rick Rude and Ultimate Warrior was pretty good too. So.
That was that on 5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I don't know why he wouldn't like Warrior and Rude. I mean, like, at the very least, give Rude credit for, having a good match with him. I mean, for Pete's sake. But whatever. Uncle Dave likes to complain. I don't know.
I thought the Red Rooster and Bobby Heenan match was, man, that was a barn burner.
Shut the hell up.
That was like 48 seconds, man, of like epicness.
Pure amazingness. But
it was literally like 48 seconds too, I think.
Unfortunately, it was. But here we are, man. We're finally at the event. No more news and notes for the time. The date of the NWA Clash of the Champions 6 Ragin Cajun was April 2nd, 1989, from the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. You want to know the total attendance for this one, man, in the Superdome?
I mean, it's got to be over 70,000, right?
5,300. Wow.
Well, yeah. When you and I went, it was over 60 or 70,000.
Yeah, I think it was about over 70,000. Yeah, it was a lot of freaking people. I'll say that. And
that's sad, man.
Like, yeah, this is what Jim Cornette was talking about. He was like, we've performed in the Superdome when it was like sold out, and he's like, it just a rocking house packed to the rafters. And then we go there this time and he's like, how do you paper the Superdome? Which is why the NWA always kind of turned the lights down in the crowd, but this especially, if you looked, I mean, they had like one light on in the whole building and it was right over the ring.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see the empty seats, so that's probably why.
Yeah, and they kept that camera in tight. so you couldn't see that crap. It was kind of pathetic. The TV rating for this got a 4.3. So there's that. So I mean, the 4.3 is a respectable rating, especially in today's times.
I feel like back then though, it probably should have been really higher.
Yeah, for a Clash of the Champions. And you've got to keep in mind this was on the same night as WrestleMania. So they were competing with Mania. This was the one they were originally going to do pay-per-view versus pay-per-view. Wrestle War was supposed to be this night, but they decided to scrap that. And because all the pay-per-view providers turned around and was like, nah, we're going to carry Mania and not you. So they really had no choice but to back out, move the date, and then say, well, we'll hold a free Clash of the Champions that day to try to save face. It didn't work. By the way, if any of you are wondering.
I'm just like, what? I guess Steamboat and Flair, but what about this card made him say, hey, let's put it in the Superdome?
I don't know. It was one of them, like, Jim Cornette made this reference as well. He said, sometimes you have a match that needs a stadium, and sometimes you have a stadium that needs a match. And this was it.
I just, like, to me, it should be a super card. This should be like, every match should be amazing.
Right. Oh. Yeah. If you're going to hold it in the Superdome that holds, like you and I talked about, like 70,000 plus, like, what the hell,
and not to get ahead, but most of this card sucked. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into some of that. the first thing about this is, like you and I talked about, non-televised dark matches or matches that got edited off the network. We had Sting making Rip Morgan submit to the Scorpion Deathlock. Lex Luger forced Jack Victories to submit to the torture rack. By the way, there was a U.S. title match.
Another Jack Victory match. I feel like he's been on every show.
He is. He's everywhere. Freaking everywhere. It just blows my mind. But yeah, both matches were later shown on NWA World Championship Wrestling. Is that on the network?
I didn't think to look for that match on other shows on the network, but now I will.
Yeah. Yeah, because they talked about on the pay-per-view, or not the pay-per-view is a free show, but on the show itself, you'll hear Jim Ross during the entrances for the main event say, well, we want to give the main event here as much time as possible, so, we're not going to do the U.S. title match. Basically saying he says, like, it'll come later or whatever.
Maybe on an episode of Saturday Night a Thing at the time? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But also Bob Orton defeated Dick Murdoch. The Varsity Club defeated the Road Warriors, and Ranger Ross defeated the Iron Sheik via disqualification. These were all edited off the network for unknown reasons.
Damn, man. That Ranger Ross Iron Sheik match, man, that was probably epic.
I don't know why that didn't draw the house, man. Sheiky baby. He's like, you bend over, Bubba, I make you humble.
I always forget he was in the NWA.
I think they wanted to also forget he was. Actually, they did forget he was in the NWA because that was a famous thing that's become legend. Was they signed him and went, wow, he sucks, but we have him under a long contract. He can do less damage if we send him home. And then they sent him home, and they forgot he was under contract, so his contract rolled over for another year, and they said, well, damn it, if we're paying him all this money, he has to earn it. So they brought him back in, he sucked again, and they sent him home again.
Well, I remember at Great American Bash the next year, he faced Uncle
Sting, right?
No, it was a night Sting won the title. What's his name?
Right.
Uncle Zebekiah. The guy who managed Dutch Mantel. Wow, I was blanking on his actual name. Yeah.
Uncle Zebekiah. That's what go with. Nice. But yeah,
Dirty I remember wrestling him because I'm like, wow, I forgot he wrestled, and it's like, good Lord, he's hairy as hell. I just remember that.
Right. Well, check this out. With only 900 tickets sold before showtime, obviously we talked about they had to paper the hell out of the ridiculously huge Superdome and get it up to an acceptable looking 4,200 people. On commentary for the night, by the way, is Jim Ross and Michael P.S. Hayes. They start the show by showing a slew of legends that had dinner together on Bourbon Street, and then Jim Herd gives a pre-written statement about how the NWA is honoring the legends. And he was horrible at this because he was reading off a piece of paper that he was holding, and he looked more at the piece of paper than he did at the camera.
Well, teleprompters weren't big back then, I assume.
Yeah, but it's like you didn't memorize any of this speech at all? None of it? Like, it wasn't that long.
About order pepperoni, mozzarella cheese, don't forget
Screw Jim Cornette. Yeah, so I don't know. It was weird. And of all the shows to honor the legends, I mean, I guess there's never a bad time, but why this?
They would eventually have a show like, Slamboree, Legends Reunion, but yeah, right. I hear you.
Yeah, why this one? Did they think Lou Thez being on the screen was going to draw the house or something? I don't know. Finally, the first actual match on the card, ladies and gents. It's a Samoan SWAT team of Samu and Fatu with Paul E. Dangerously. That's his new team. They're taking on the Midnight Express of Beautiful Bobby Eaton and Sweet Stan Lane with Jim Cornette in their corner. This one got a hell of a lot of time, 20 and a half minutes. Beautiful Bobby has Samu pinned after the rocket launcher, but the referee's distracted. Fatu runs in and clocks Eaton with Paulie's giant cell phone, rolling Samu on top of him with a 3 count. Uncle Dave gave this 3 stars. I gave it 2.5 average. What say you?
I said 2. I just started getting bored by it. I mean, there were some good moments, but eventually I'm like, why am I still watching this?
I mean, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I was never a big fan of the Samoan SWAT team.
When I was a kid, I just didn't care about them either.
Yeah.
I remember watching this, like, I didn't watch it live. I remember watching it, like, on video, and I just didn't care about either one of these teams, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I love the Midnight Express as an adult.
Looking back, I love the Midnight Express, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
But
as
at the time,
I don't know if I'd care.
God, it was rough.
Right. Well, next up, man, maybe a palate cleanser, maybe not. I don't know. It's the Great Muta with Gary Hart in his corner. He's taking on Steve Casey. The match went for 8 minutes, 11 seconds, which blew my mind.
Steve effing Casey.
They're still pushing Muta as...
Sorry.
I don't know either. They're still pushing the Great Muta as the son of the Great Kabuki. Did you hear that?
I mean, I didn't hear it, but I knew that.
Yeah. This was the time period. They did to him what they would later do with the Giant and Andre the Giant. But Muta starts the match off by right off the bat, he sprays a green mist in Casey's face. And I'm like, well, it's over. What are they going to do with the other 8 minutes? But Casey doesn't really sell it very much. In my opinion, Muta gave Casey way too much offense in this match. Muta wins after a moonsault. Uncle Dave drooled over Muta and called this an incredible one-man show, and he gave it 3 1/4 stars. I gave it 2.5. Again, average.
I wanted to give it 1, but I love the Great Muta, and
I thought, yeah. I mean, do you agree that, like you said, who the hell is Sean Casey? Or was it, Steve Casey? I already forgot his name. Who the hell is that? And Muta, who's supposed to be a killer, is giving him 8 minutes. I know you gotta fill time, but what the hell? I
don't know. This was a glorified, I'm gonna keep saying Saturday night because I don't know if that was a show back then. That was a glorified Saturday night show, or match. Like, it should have been on there, not on the Clash, but.
The NWA World Championship Wrestling at 7:05, ladies and gentlemen, on the Superstation.
It's 6:05, you idiot.
Nah, Jay, I thought so too, but apparently they switched the times because JR teased 7:05, unless there's a time zone I'm not aware of.
I never got that time zone thing. But this just takes me back and reminds me of how much I hated Muta when I was a kid, though. I would be legit shaking scared when he spit that mist in people's eyes.
Wow.
Like, I remember when he did it to Sting, I was like 6. I almost damn near cried.
Wow. Yeah, that's like Papa Shango making the Ultimate Warrior vomit.
I think that got me too. I'm pretty sure it did.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, something else that got me. Up next, man, it's the Junkyard Dog versus Butch Reed with Hiro Matsuda in his corner. It goes just shy of 10 minutes. Despite missing 9 shows in a row and getting fired because of it, the NWA desperately needed a local draw and brought JYD back for one match. The dog was played to the ring by a New Orleans jazz band, which I thought was kind of cool.
Spoiler, the highlight of the match.
Yeah, but then that damn bell had to ring.
I loved the Junkyard Dog, by the way. It was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was a kid, and
yeah,
it hurts to sit there and watch this. I'm like, man, this was terrible. Not that he ever had any like 5-star classics, but I don't know. Something about this just I didn't like it.
Yeah, and you can really see during this time why Uncle Dave called him the junk food dog.
Yeah.
This was the worst I ever saw him look. But I don't know if you noticed during Butch Reed's entrance, Jim Ross pimps an upcoming NWA show for Connecticut, and he manages to say that they have a lot of fans around the Stamford area. I laughed. I popped for that one. Jim Ross was hardcore Joey Styles style trolling. But yeah, I don't know how you felt about this, man. The match, I didn't think the match was terrible, but it wasn't anything to write home about. It was just kind of boring And in the end,
I just thought it was horrible. I'm like, another one of those ones. I'm like, I want to hit the fast forward button.
Yeah. In the end,
and I hate saying that because, like I said, I loved JYD when I was a kid. So.
Right, and I
tolerated the match
Reed
for that reason, by the way. But.
Yeah. Well, in the end, Butch Reed hits a shoulder tackle off the top. He pins Dog, but only gets a 2 because Dog's foot was on the bottom rope. Hiro Matsuda gets up on the apron.
That'll be a theme.
Hiro Matsuda, little did we know. Hiro Matsuda gets up on the apron to complain. JYD throws Butch Reed into him, and then he pins Reed for the win. I gave it 2 stars. Uncle Dave gave it -1 star. What say you?
I'm literally right in the middle. I gave it 1.
Yeah, I think 1 is fair. I gave it 2 because it was below average, but I didn't see anything like atrocious in it.
One thing that really gets me is going back and watching these matches and seeing how horrible they were, knowing the guy's no longer with us.
Right.
But then I got to convince myself I'm not bragging on the guy. It's the match, so.
Right.
I can't sit there
bragging on it.
Oh, this is a 5-star match because the guy's no longer with us. I'm like, that's horrible. That's a horrible opinion, but.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta be honest.
I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to fast forward it, but for the sake of this show, I didn't.
Yeah, it's.
The fans I gotta say this, the fans are heavily into JYD, obviously.
So yeah. He was like a god in the New Orleans area.
Yeah. You can, they were panning over him. They were kind of going crazy. You can see them.
Yeah. Well, and
also,
then
the entrance helped though too. So.
Yeah. And when you got to think, even JYD couldn't help save the show, dude.
Yeah.
But up next, something that would save the show, I say dripping in sarcasm. It's the first family of wrestling, Rick Steiner and Eddie Gilbert. They have Missy Hyatt in their corner. They are defending the NWA United States Tag Team titles against the Varsity Club of Kevin Sullivan and Dan Spivey. The time I got for this online was 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Seems somewhat accurate, but I mean, there was other shenanigans, so I couldn't really tell.
If I remember correctly, I remember watching this, right in the middle of the match, they bust open Eddie Gilbert's eye and he's gushing blood, and that's the whole 3 minutes. I think the moment they rung the bell to the DQ. I think it was a DQ, right?
No, it was not, but I'll get to that here in a second. Right off the bat, I saw, or I noticed when they're doing the introductions on the ring, they announced Kevin Sullivan as from Singapore. Yeah. And I'm like, why are you part of the first of all, how can you be from Singapore with that thick Boston accent that you got? And it's like, he can't cover that up for anything. That's always the joke with people. They're like, I wonder if Kevin Sullivan's got a line on the socks this year. And the other thing is, when you're from the Varsity Club, like, the whole gimmick was they announced Dr. Death is from Oklahoma University, and here
the wrestling capital.
Yeah. Well, and they announced Dan Spivey is from University of Georgia. So that's like the gimmick. But Kevin Sullivan, who's the games master, he's from Singapore. Like, what?
You didn't say where Rick Steiner is from, by the way. You forgot.
Well, because they don't announce him from his college.
I know, but you can still say where he's from.
However, this is what I did put in my notes. I said, I'm hating Rick Steiner because he's wearing his stupid Michigan Letterman jacket. I guess at the time he didn't have to hide his head in shame that was his college. Right now it's kind of like, yeah, Michigan, whatever. Anyway, Spivey takes his freaking time beating the hot stuff right out of Eddie Gilbert. Finally, Gilbert uses Missy's Gucci bag on Sullivan behind the referee's back. He gets a small package roll-up and a pinfall win. After the match, however, the Varsity Club just lays waste to Gilbert before Steiner eventually chases him off with a chair. Uncle Dave
I remember them damn near killing him, so.
Oh, yeah, they just beat the snot out of him. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Eddie Gilbert was just used as like a punching bag, basically. Uncle Dave gave this 1 3/4 stars. It's like, I hate when you do that. It's like, just give it 2 stars. I gave it 1.5 stars.
Going off of what I remember, it seems like not really a match, so.
Yeah.
I'll give it a star.
Good effort for, 3.5 minutes, but that was about it.
It's funny, by the way, how Rick Steiner within a year would go on to be like very loved and part of like Sting's Squadron, I think they called it.
Yeah, I think so.
Just funny to me. Like, that's a huge turn.
Right.
He was despised. Not like just kind of booed.
Right. Yeah. So Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner eventually blew up and went on to be beloved and all that good stuff. But by the way, before the main event here, this is not on the network, which I'm surprised about, but it is at this point that the WWF manages to get a 900 line commercial onto TBS where you can call in for WrestleMania results. People were furious because TBS allowed this. Like,
well, I don't understand why. I mean, all they're doing is saying get results. They're not like going to change the channel. I mean, I assume the channel's still on the TV, just calling. So
yeah, but they're kind of advertising. They're like, hey, in case you forgot, WrestleMania, and it's like, oh crap, that's right. So people were like, why are we advertising for the WWF during our freaking show?
Remember a couple of times during the Monday Night Massacre seeing Impact commercials on USA during Raw, which I thought was hilarious. So
yeah,
I don't understand how it happens either, but
yeah, it's just TBS, man. They never knew what the hell was going on with WCW or NWA or whatever. Like, that was a big complaint out of a lot of people. They said nobody ever paid attention to them until Eric Bischoff took over.
I heard Dusty Rhodes one time say that TBS didn't know what they had. All they knew is they had a hot wrestling show that got numbers.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them didn't want a hot wrestling show. They just didn't like wrestling. They didn't want wrestling. They thought it was a bother.
I mean, this is the part where I say, where were they going to run old reruns of, but what would be the show back then?
Andy
like
Griffith.
Nowadays it'd be Law and Order or something.
Yeah. Well, that was what JR said. He was like, oh yeah, hurry up so you can get back to your reruns of Andy Griffith.
That makes sense.
Yeah, which is true. Because he was like, what did they have on that show, or on that channel? They had the Braves, they had the Hawks, and I don't know if they had the Hawks. I think they did. And they had wrestling, and then they had old reruns of Andy Griffith. He was like, oh yeah, bump us off for Aunt May or whatever.
Wow.
But we're at the main event, man. It's Ricky Steamboat defending the NWA World Heavyweight title in a 2 out of 3 falls match against the Nature Boy Ric Flair. This match got all the time. 55 minutes, 49 seconds was the exact time. This was the one match everybody cared about on the show. So, yeah, there's that. A couple things before we get into the match itself. Terry Funk is on commentary for this match. I don't know if you noticed throughout the match, he'd throw in little things about, oh, glad I'm retired, or, oh, man, retire me right now after seeing that.
I did, and that's when I realized, well, not to, I know it's like 30-year spoiler, but
yeah.
Clearly that's leading to something with this main event.
Oh, yeah.
We will get into at another show, but I did notice that. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize they planted the seeds for that right here.
Yeah, I didn't either, because, I mean, in my defense, I've never seen this before.
I've seen it a couple times, even going back to when I was a kid, but now I actually pay attention to everything. Like when I'm a kid, I'm just wanting Steamboat to win.
Right.
That was it.
Steamboat with his, well, we'll get into it here in a second. There's a neon light up sign behind the guys as they come out. And when Ric Flair comes out, it reads R-I-C-K Flair. I
chuckled.
Conrad talked about this on his podcast.
That's not even like a chyron, by the way. So
I know. They took time.
That's a huge accident.
Well, I know. That's what Conrad was talking about. He was like, let's spend all this money on this light up sign. We're going to go big for Ric Flair's entrance. Spell his name wrong. Like, what the hell? But he comes out flanked by a harem of women. And then Ricky Steamboat is out next. He's supposed to be the average everyman. And he comes to the ring with his model wife.
I love that.
Who's wearing a dress, by the way, that probably costs more than most people in the crowd make in a year.
Every man can marry a woman looks like that, right?
Yeah, and just drop $100,000 on a dress like that. She was wearing like a ball gown.
Well, you're spending that Chi-Town Rumble money on her.
Yeah, maybe. My entire payoff goes to Bonnie. Little Richie, by the way, you had brought this up. I couldn't wait to talk to you about this. Little Richie is wearing a dragon costume for Halloween. He looked so stupid. Like, this whole scene looks dumb. Like, just picture this. Like, anywhere else in the world, or even in wrestling, just picture this. Ricky Steamboat comes out dressed like a karate man, wearing his gi and his headband, his white tights. His wife is, like, wearing this luxurious ball gown, and then Ricky's carrying a child dressed like a dragon.
You know what's funny about this? As I was thinking about this, I'm like, if this had happened in WWE, people would just laugh it off. Typical WWE with their stupid gimmick crap. NWA does it, and it's perfectly fine.
I think NWA did it, and people. Company. Well, I think NWA did it, and people probably just kind of buried their head in their hand, like, oh God. I could be wrong. I mean,
one thing I think, if you remember back to WrestleMania 4, Gorilla Monsoon said, it's a memory that little kid will have. I don't think he's going to remember this, though. But he was on TV, so whatever.
Yeah. He was on 2 pay-per-views and national TV. So.
Yeah. And back-to-back years in both companies, so there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
I know this isn't my gimmick, but I'm going to do it anyway. I have a Mattel figure of that Ric Flair. He came in the 4 Horsemen 4-pack. But the robe he wore in this match came with a Defining Moments Ric Flair.
Yeah.
So it didn't match up.
I didn't get that 4-pack. It kills me that I didn't, because I didn't know they were elites. That's my...
Oh, you didn't get that one either?
No, you got it when we were in Brooklyn. I remember. You got it right after NXT.
Right. Yeah, and, we ran over to
I remember laughing because you're like, I got to get it because I can't find it anywhere. And I'm laughing because I'm like, dude, I see this like every one of my targets. I have like 100 of them. And yeah, I'm mad I didn't get it now. Like I said, I didn't know they were elites. I thought they were just a 4 basic pack.
The one I didn't get was the one you said you didn't get this one either, was Sting, Luger, and Macho Man from Bash of the Beach 96.
Yeah. Again, I thought they were basics, and I'm like kicking myself over it. I will never again do that without looking at it clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to look at, how I can always tell is you look at their stomach, and if you see a bend in their stomach, there you go.
Exactly. That's my thing now too, but I wasn't a hardcore figure collector back then. I was just picking them up casually.
Right. As you can imagine, Uncle Dave drooled over this match. He said it was surprising that Flair dropped a fall via submission. Flair took the first fall, by the way, when he goes for the figure 4. Steamboat rolls him up in a small package, but Flair reverses the pile, and he gets the pin. Steamboat takes the second fall by submitting Flair with a double chicken wing. And the final fall is given to Steamboat when he lifts Flair up with a double chicken wing, but he falls back. And even though Flair has his foot under the bottom rope, the referee counts his shoulders down, like almost like a bridging tiger suplex. But he counts the shoulders down. He gives the win to Steamboat. Uncle Dave and I both gave this 5 stars. What do you say?
I said 5 as well. I thought it was an easy grade.
Oh, yeah.
The finish was stupid, though, I thought. I don't take points off of dumb finishes. I refuse to do that. I don't like when people do that, because to me, a horrible finish doesn't ruin a great match. But I thought it was stupid. But clearly it's setting up for something, so you have to attribute for that.
Yeah. I don't say it ruins a match with a bad finish, but it does leave a bad taste in your mouth. It's like one of those, like Eric Bischoff has referred to. He was like, if you sit and you watch this movie and you're like, man, this is a great movie, and then at the end something happens and you're like, that freaking sucked. And then you leave the theater thinking about how it sucked. The twist is, it sucked.
No, I mean, I get it, but for me, I've always thought, like, if this is like a 5-star match, I'm not going to deduct points for a horrible ending. So
right, and because it's set up for the pay-per-view, because this whole show basically was a giant commercial for WrestleMania 89.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong in saying that?
No. Yeah, exactly what it is.
Yeah. So.
But it just kind of sucks because I think because of that, it took away from everything. These matches should have been better.
Right. Yeah. I think so too. But I thought this was an amazing 1 hour of wrestling. I've never seen it before. I was very excited. I didn't fast forward at all through this match. I was like, I knew it was going to happen, and I was still like on the edge of my seat watching this match. I was so enthralled. And
I watched it back for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. if you're going to watch one match from the show, it's going to have to be this one. I mean, obviously.
Go out of your way to watch this.
Go out of your way to go back and watch Steve Casey versus Great Muta.
Good Lord.
That was a barn burner. But we go to commercial. When we come back, Jim Ross interviews Ricky Steamboat at a podium after the match. Steamboat thanks TBS and all the fans for their support for him. You know, all 5,000 of them in the crowd there that night.
This reminds me of boxing, by the way, because they're like thanking the network, like, you know, boxers will thank Showtime or HBO. Oh, not HBO anymore because they ruined it. But yeah, it's just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it gives it a good, you know, a legit sports feel, which, you know, I wouldn't mind if AEW worked more of that in. I mean, I realize they have the TNT
they just tried.
title.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we talked about that. You know, not to get off topic, but they did with that press conference with Cody.
Yeah. So I mean, they're trying to give it more of a sports feel, and I get, you know, but I don't get people like Jim Cornette. It's like, well, you have something like that, and then you have, you know, the clowns come out with a dancing bear afterwards. You know, how can you take this seriously? It's like, okay, I get it. But at the same time, it's like, not everything has to be super serious. I mean, even in legit sports, you've got, I can't think of his now, the gypsy guy, the boxer. What's his name? Tyson Fury. Yeah. Tyson Fury came out to the ring being carried to the ring on a throne singing Patsy Cline.
Yeah, that was great, though.
I mean, you mean to tell me that's, you know, you're going to see that and be like, wow, this sport sucks, and then you're not going to take it seriously when he whoops the guy he's fighting? Like, come on.
No, not only did he whoop him, his corner gave up for him, but
he licked the blood off of him. Like, that's disgusting, but it happened.
His name is Fury.
Yeah. But yeah, getting back to wrapping this up here, Ricky says that it's now time for him to move on to his next challenger, but then Jim Ross shows replays to Steamboat of Flair's foot under the bottom rope, and he says that Flair is furious. Steamboat says that Flair does have a legitimate gripe after seeing that footage, and they kind of leave it at that. But we would know.
I remember when I was watching this when I was a kid, I saw that. It was like the first time I ever saw something like, oh wow, he's going to lose his title. I really thought they were going to strip him or something. I mean, of course I didn't use that word. I'm like, oh, they're going to take his title, because I was like really scared because I loved Steamboat when I was a kid. So, I mean, I do now too, but
yeah,
that was like the first time I actually caught that.
Right. I mean, they kind of set it up. They say, well, you know, the NWA board of directors is going to meet through the week. They're going to have press conferences, blah, blah, blah. And it eventually sets up for Wrestle War 89, which we will cover in 2 weeks. I'll get to that here in a moment. The final rating of the show, man, Internet Movie Database gave it 7.3 out of 10. CageMatch.net gave it 6.31 out of 10. I gave it a 6 out of 10. Slightly above average, but, I mean, one match isn't going to sell the whole card for me. What say you?
I'm right there with you. I think maybe a C-.
Yeah.
I hated the card, but the final match was epic.
Yeah.
I just don't think that, I don't know, call me crazy, but in building up to a big match, you shouldn't be like, oh, we'll have crap and we're going to finish huge. I think you should have a bunch of matches, okay? That's just, you know.
You're kind of describing WrestleMania for the first, 6-7 years, dude.
Yeah, right. I know. I don't think WrestleMania started in, amazing undercards until 10.
Uh-huh.
I just, yeah.
Yeah, because 9 was horrible.
I think we don't even get to the point where every match is, freaking amazing up until the main event until probably 19. 17 is close, but I think 19, almost every single match was freaking amazing.
I'd say 17 was the first really, really great one. I thought 13 and 14 were good, especially 14. 15 kind of sucked, top to bottom. I mean, that main event was okay, but it was just a giant brawl around the arena. We'll have to talk about sometime. WrestleMania 16 was, there were a few highlights, I think, but all in all, I didn't enjoy it. And then 17 I thought was amazing. So
I will say I thought 17 was the first, close to perfect WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's still my favorite.
There's still a few matches like, I'll skip this one. But I think 19 is the only WrestleMania to this day where I can watch the entire show.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out again. It's been a few years, so I've forgotten a lot. I want to go back and watch it. Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels, man, that's all that needs to be said. I mean, there's other amazing stuff on it. And that's the thing. There's so much amazing stuff on that show. You know, I mean, you can say any of them.
I think people forget that Rey Mysterio and Matt Hardy was a freaking amazing opener. You know,
I have forgotten.
But God, it was amazing.
Well,
also, I'm a huge Daredevil fan, so Mysterio's outfit at that one was awesome.
Yeah, I always love Rey's outfits. Yeah. But yeah, that kind of wraps it up for Clash of the Champions, man. Again, this one was it was okay. It was a one match show.
I think what's funny is telling is going forward, WCW will start to knock it out of the park with their undercard and will suck at the end. It's kind of funny. I never thought about that. It was a complete 180.
Right. Yeah. We'll cover more WCW and NWA in the future. I definitely want to dive more into the WCW realm. We have in the past, if you guys want to go back and check out our second show ever in the archives. It was Great American Bash 1996. It was actually a really good show.
I didn't realize, by the way, that Conrad and Bischoff covered that. That was just a sheer coincidence.
Yes, yeah, they covered it like 2 weeks after we did, I think.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, like I thought maybe our opinions would be the only ones about like how amazing it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad to see it wasn't.
Right.
I can't say enough how much that show was great. So yeah, go watch it too. Don't just listen to the podcast.
Oh, definitely. And with us talking about it, it was like 2 weeks, I think, maybe a week before Bischoff and Conrad dropped theirs. So we did not listen to theirs and then do ours.
Honest to God, I listened to it a couple days ago. So.
Right. Same here. So that's that. But yeah, coming up, man, next week, I'm very excited for next week. We've got a trip to 1997, which is in my opinion, one of the greatest years in wrestling history for both companies.
Both sides, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not including ECW, but.
Well, we said both sides, and.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to be said.
Right.
I hope I don't get any hate from ECW fans, but.
I wasn't real big into ECW in 97. I mean, even now, looking back in retrospect, it was okay. But as far as.
I started getting into it, honestly, when one of our faithful listeners loaned me a tape of that was a Heatwave event. I want to say it was 2000. That's when I started listening or watching. I literally watched towards the end.
Right. I definitely want to go back and review more ECW towards the later years. It's some interesting stuff I really want to review sometime in the future. But we'll get to that. But next week, like I said, one of the best years in wrestling history for WWF and WCW. It was, In Your House 16 Canadian Stampede. I'm very excited to talk about that show.
It was already that old?
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, because they started.
Blue.
Yeah, well, they had the first one in 95, and you got to think they only had like four, like the big four, and everything in between was In Your House for like 3 years.
Well, it was actually 5, so I mean, because King of the Ring was there, right? So.
Yeah, okay, you're right, the big 5. So everything in between was In Your House. Yep. So, yeah, In Your House, 16 Canadian Stampede. We're going to cover that next week. I'm excited. I hope you're all excited. And then the week after that, we're closing out the month of July with Wrestle War 89, the Music City Showdown. That's going to close out the Flair Steamboat trilogy. And
I got to watch that back. I hope it was better than this.
Yeah, I haven't watched the full event yet. I've seen that main event. I've seen the Ric Flair Ricky Steamboat match multiple times.
Oh yeah, if you're a wrestling fan, you better watch that event or that match.
Yes, and I've seen what came afterwards with. Well, I won't give it away. I mean, I'll talk about it later. But I've watched what came after that. I'll just say that, and it was some good stuff. So Wrestle War 89, man, it was a transition show. That we'll get in and we'll talk about why. But yeah, that comes at the end of July. And then going into August, We'll do a lot of SummerSlams. We're starting off the month with a SummerSlam that you and I were at, SummerSlam 2015. We'll cover that one.
I might want to say we might do a YouTube exclusive real quick review of the first TakeOver too. We should.
Yeah, TakeOver Brooklyn, yes.
Because that was the first ever NXT TakeOver. Well, the first one outside of Full Sail.
Right.
And to this day, one of my favorite memories of any event I've ever been to.
Yep. Yeah, August, we're going to have hopefully some good YouTube exclusive content. Like you said, you want to do one of NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 1. I have a friend of the show, long-time wrestling podcaster, Jacob Grandi. He wants to join me for a review of the very first ever SummerSlam 1988. Just do a quick mini review on YouTube to make it easy to digest if you want to know what we're more about. I'll have some video footage.
I'm looking forward to that because I don't particularly like listening to myself back, so I will listen to that.
Yeah. So it should be a good time, should be fun. I've done stuff with him in the past. I'm also trying to set up a time with other fellow podcaster Delvin Cox from the Delvin Cox Experience and the PlayStation Experience. Yes. Go check him out if you want some good stuff. He doesn't cover a lot of wrestling, but he is a huge wrestling fan. So him and I are trying to set something up. Not only do we want to talk wrestling, but we also want to eulogize a good friend of ours that passed away this past year. Both of us were very familiar with him, Santiago Jaimes. I used to do a show with him called Retro Rasslin Review, where we would watch along classic matches and kind of do our own commentary and stuff like that. So that's out there if you want to check it out. It's 3 R's, Retro Rasslin Review. So good stuff.
Oh,
but
3 R's, man.
Sorry. What the hell? Triple R. Next week, man, coming at you with some Canadian Stampede. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @main_event_marks and Facebook.com/main_event_marks_pod. And follow us on YouTube.
Yeah, go follow us on YouTube. You don't even have to stay. Just, follow us until we get 100, and then you can undo it, please.
Oh, don't undo it. I don't
know if that's cheap. Well, I mean, I prefer they didn't, but at least just get us to 100 so we can get that URL.
Yeah, subscribe, sample, like, all that good stuff. And and the more you do, the more content we'll bring you. And we're always open to suggestions for all you marks out there. We'll see you next week with some Canadian Stampede.